Good morning, and welcome to the annual City of Birmingham Memorial Day service. My name is Bruce Miller. I am the chairman of the Birmingham Memorial Day Committee. As a matter of fact, I am the Birmingham Memorial Day Committee. And I am thank you very much, thank you. And I am a member of the Oakland County Camp of the Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War. Our fraternal organization exists to preserve and perpetuate the Grand Army of the Republic and their sacrifice in serving and saving the Union, and to ensure the proper observance of Memorial Day. More on that in a minute. On a personal note, after many years of service as organizer of our Memorial Day program, this year will be my last. If anyone is interested in taking on this responsibility, please contact the clerk's office. They can give you my contact information, and I will gladly tutor my successor. This service has endured for well over 100 years, and it's something that we just can't let perish. Now, if you would, please turn your attention to the flag of the United States and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now our invocation, delivered by Terry Miller, ordained deacon and Stephen minister at Kirk in the Hills Presbyterian Church.
Gracious God, on this Memorial Day, we remember and give thanks for those who have given their lives in the service of our country. When the need was greatest, they stepped forward and did their duty to defend the freedoms that we enjoy and to win the same for others. Lord, you have taught us that no love is greater than that which gives itself for another. These honored dead gave the most precious gift they had, life itself, for loved ones, neighbors, and for us. Help us to honor their memory by being watchful caretakers of the freedoms for which they gave their lives. Though their names may fade with the passing of generations, may we never forget what they have done. Help us to be worthy of their sacrifice. Amen.
Thank you, ma'am. And now, if the band is ready, please join them with our national anthem. Saved by the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, pushed from stars and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? All right. Memorial Day is the time for Americans to reconnect with their history and their core values by honoring those who gave their lives for the ideals we cherish. More than 1 million American service members have died in the wars and conflicts this nation has fought since the first colonial soldiers took up arms 250 years ago to fight for independence. Each person who died during those conflicts was a loved one, cherished by family and friends. Each was a loss to their community and to their nation. On May 5th, 1868, 3 years after the Civil War ended, the head of a fraternal organization of former Union soldiers and sailors, the Grand Army of the Republic, or GAR, established Decoration Day as a time for the nation to decorate the graves of the war dead with flowers. GAR Commander Major General John Logan declared the day to be the 30th of May, and the first large observance was held that year at Arlington National Cemetery across the Potomac from Washington, D.C. The cemetery already held the remains of 20,000 Union dead and several hundred Confederate dead. The ceremony was held on the veranda of the Arlington Mansion, once the home of Robert E. Lee. General and Mrs. Ulysses S. Grant and other Washington officials presided. After the speeches, children from the Soldiers and Sailors Orphans Home and members of the GAR made their way through the cemetery, strewing flowers on both Union and Confederate graves, reciting prayers and singing hymns. General Logan's order for GAR posts to decorate graves in 1868, quote, with the choicest flowers of springtime, end quote, urged we should guard their graves with sacred vigilance. Let no neglect, no ravages of time testify to the present or to coming generations that we have forgotten the cost of a free and undivided republic. By the end of the 19th century, Memorial Day ceremonies were being held on May 30th throughout the nation. State legislatures passed proclamations designating the day. The Army and Navy adopted regulations for proper observance at their facilities. It was not until after World War I, however, that the day was expanded to honor those who have died in all American wars. In 1971, Memorial Day was declared a national holiday by an act of Congress. It was then also placed on the last Monday in May, as were many other federal holidays. The crowd attending the first Memorial Day ceremony at Arlington was approximately the same size as those that attend today's observance, about 5,000 people. Then as now, small American flags were placed on each grave, a tradition followed at most national and private cemeteries today. The origins of special services to honor those who die in war can be found in antiquity. The Athenian leader Pericles offered a tribute to the fallen heroes of the Peloponnesian War over 24 centuries ago that could be applied today to the 1.1 million Americans who have died in our nation's wars. Quote, not only are they commemorated by columns and inscriptions, but there dwells also an unwritten memorial to them, graven not on stone, but in the hearts of men. We often take for granted the very things that most deserve our gratitude. Our nation will remain the land of the free only so long as it is the home of the brave. Now, while on Memorial Day we honor those who've made the ultimate sacrifice for our country, we want to take this time to honor all those with us today who have worn the uniform of the United States. So I invite all veterans to please come forward and form a line on me over here. Please come forward, and I'm going to ask you to state your name and branch of service as the microphone passes. Please come forward. By the way, this includes first responders also. I see a couple of Birmingham's finest. I hope you folks will join us and be recognized. Do we have any fire, EMT? All right, you're all present and accounted for. How about you, lad?
Dave Talagan, Lyon Township Fire, retired.
Tom Rogers, U.S. Army, 1960 to 1963.
James Ty, United States Army, 1st Cavalry.
Right behind you.
Michael Schwartz, U.S. Army, Vietnam.
Ralph Vaughn, U.S. Army Special Forces.
Terry Marisi, U.S. Army, Aviator.
Tom Shipley, World War II, Navy.
World War II.
Michael Jones, U.S. Army, 2nd Missile Battalion.
Chris White, U.S. Army.
Jim Sue, U.S. Army, Vietnam.
Dave Zimmer, U.S. Navy.
Steve Zimmer, U.S. Marine Corps.
Mike Rake, United States Army.
Sam Burgess in the Corps about 50 years ago.
Joe King, Captain, United States Air Force, Vietnam.
Chris McCoskey, Birmingham Police.
Jamie DeBano, Birmingham Police.
Phil Nash, U.S. Army, 101st Airborne.
Let's give these folks a hand.
Thank you for being here.
And now, if the band is ready, we're going to serenade you with your service songs.
I'll let Eden do that. Thank you.
And now our annual mayoral address. Here is Mayor Pro Tem Clinton Baller.
Put it here?
You can.
Okay.
I'm not sure they can hear you, but there you go. I could also hold it for you.
No, that's okay. We'll figure it out. Maybe. I'll hold it.
There you go.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you all for being here, and welcome to beautiful Shane Park, our town square, place of community and reflection. My name is Clinton Baller. I'm Mayor Pro Tem, standing in for Mayor Therese Long, who sends her regrets. And joining me today is Commissioner Andrew Haig. I was asked to make some remarks on behalf of the city, and welcome you here is easy. Confining my remarks to something that might be deemed official, however, is a challenge that's beyond me. So I want you to know that if I express any opinions, they're mine and mine alone. Today, of course, is a day of reflection, and it's a ritual that demands that we remember not only those who made the ultimate sacrifice, but why they made that sacrifice. There's no one alive who lived through the Civil War, very few who lived through the First World War, and with each passing year we lose more of those who fought in and were victims of the Second World War. Along with them, we lose the living memory of why we fought and died, why they fought and died. We have to remember that the stakes of that war were clear. We have to remember that our soldiers fought against the violent ideology of fascism, whose unchecked leaders murdered millions in the Holocaust. We have to remember that our enemies were not abstract, but real and immediate threats to freedom, justice, and the lives of millions around the globe. And we have to remember that in facing them, our soldiers defended our fundamental values: human dignity, pluralism, democracy. They fought and died to enable generations of us to spread freedom around the world by standing up to tyranny, advancing human rights, supporting the growth of democratic institutions in all the places where people dream of self-government. Their sacrifice created a legacy of leadership that has inspired and protected countless lives, both at home and abroad. We can't let that memory fade. We can't let it be rewritten, minimized, or mocked. We must not allow the people we honor today to be disparaged. They were patriots. They didn't fight and die as Democrats or Republicans. They were Americans, sons, daughters, brothers, and sisters who died not for power or conquest, not in their own self-interest, but for liberty and justice. Now, with remembrance comes responsibility. It's up to us not only to remember, but to carry forward, to honor and protect the causes for which the fallen died. We need to teach our children never to take for granted the freedoms that were so hard fought and remain so fragile. In a nation of immigrants, let's look to those most recently arrived for inspiration, those who know firsthand how precious and rare and fragile freedom can be. We must understand and help our children understand that the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights aren't relics of the past. They're living promises, and they belong to each new generation as much as to the last. They were written for us, defended for us, and we too must now, more than ever in our time, defend those principles. We do that in myriad ways, among them by teaching and learning our history honestly, participating in our democracy, holding leaders accountable, speaking up against injustice, and protecting the rights of others with the same vigilance we protect our own. Civic responsibility is the bulwark of liberty. It means more than simply casting a vote. It means engaging thoughtfully, speaking truthfully, and standing up when our institutions are threatened. In a world where disinformation spreads quickly and faith in democracy erodes slowly, informed citizens participating actively are the first and last lines of defense. And so today, we remember not just the dead, but the principles for which they died, and our duty to protect and carry those principles forward. Our freedoms are not self-sustaining, and we can't take them for granted. They're fragile because they depend on a shared commitment to truth, the rule of law, democratic institutions, a free and independent press, an engaged and informed public, and the peaceful transfer of power. Today we see all of those things threatened. We can and will lose them, maybe not all at once, but gradually, through apathy, misinformation, the erosion of civic norms, the spread of conspiracy theories, the normalization of political violence, and the rejection of shared facts. It's especially perilous when these dynamics are driven by those in power, who question election integrity, undermine the rule of law, and weaken or destroy our institutions. These actions dishonor the sacrifices made to secure our freedoms and place the foundation of our democracy at risk. If we allow that to happen, the sacrifices of those we honor today will have been in vain, and we will become a nation torn from its founding ideals, where power eclipses principle and fear displaces freedom. And so today I ask you to do something simple but meaningful for our country, for our children, and in honor of those we honor today. As you celebrate, take some time to remember. Reflect on the values our fallen heroes died defending. Have a real conversation with your children and your family about those values. Help them understand that the freedoms we enjoy were hard-won, that they must not be taken for granted, and that remembering isn't just a gesture, it's a duty. Thank you, and may we always honor the memory of our fallen, uphold our duty to our veterans, and strive to live up to the promise of our country.
Thank you very much. And now if the band is ready, God bless America. Our next speaker is Dr. George Getchman, dentist, musician, and, without question, Birmingham's leading historian. George is an authority on Birmingham's Greenwood Cemetery that contains over 3,000 graves, including Revolutionary War veterans. Thanks to George's efforts, Greenwood Cemetery has been designated a National Historical Site by the National Park Service. So please welcome our friend, George Getchman.
Thank you. 80 years ago, Memorial Day in 1945 actually took place just across the street here in the north side of City Hall. Today, there's probably 120 people here. In 1945, there were probably 400 or 500 people crammed into that area in front of the City Hall. In 1945, Birmingham was still a small, close-knit community, largely surrounded by farmland and gravel roads. Everyone in the town personally knew of young men who had grown up in the area and become casualties in World War II. The mood for the ceremony was a mixture of celebration and somber reflection. The war in Europe had ended just 3 weeks previously, but the jubilation was tempered by thoughts of young Birmingham men who would never be returning to their families and by worries of those still at war in the Pacific. The Memorial Day ceremony in 1945 began with a parade starting at Baldwin High School, which is located over here where the Chester Street parking structure is now. The parade route extended down Maple to Old Woodward, then south to Merrill Street, and then on to City Hall. A group of student flag bearers led the parade, followed by the Baldwin High Band, city officials, and various civic organizations. The parade went past the corner of Pierce and Maple and the Shane Drug Store, where the Paper Source is now, past Macus Bakery on the north side of Maple, and Wilson's Drug Store, where Starbucks is now located. They turned onto South Old Woodward, past Peck's Men's Clothing Store, past the Olson Meat Market, and then turned onto Merrill at Fred's Barbershop. Across the street from this was the Birmingham Theater building, and next to the theater was a small office with a yellow and black Western Union sign in the window. The Western Union office was Birmingham's high-tech connection with the world, where important telegraph messages were sent and received quickly and efficiently. It was the conduit through which important business and personal news reached people. As the war progressed, the appearance of the Western Union messenger became a dreaded occurrence. Messengers were often teenagers or older women and men. With the shortage of gas in cities, telegraphs were often delivered on bicycles. If there was a blue star in the envelope, the messenger knew that it contained the worst possible news. In the early morning of Friday, February 14th, 1944, the teletype machine in the Birmingham Western Union office sprang to life and began to type out a message. The clerk walked over to the machine, began to collect the long, thin stream of paper. They placed the ribbon of paper onto a counter and with scissors cut and spliced the paper tape into short strips that could be pasted onto a Western Union letterhead. The telegram was placed into a yellow envelope and set into an out bin for delivery. Within the hour, a messenger came in, grabbed the envelope, set out in his car, and turned west onto Maple to the outskirts of town, and then turned right onto Fairfax. People who were outside stopped and stared, easily seeing the Western Union sign in the car's window. Fearful faces peered out from their homes, hoping that the messenger's car would drive by, and when it did, felt a sense of relief, but empathy as well, wondering which of their neighbors were about to be devastated. The messenger went past Pine Street and slowed down, looking at addresses on the houses. He came to a stop in front of 795 Fairfax, a large brick house on the west side of the street, 3 houses down from Oak Street. He got out of his car. The neighborhood was eerily quiet, and he sensed that he was being watched. As he approached the porch, the front door opened, and there stood Helen Good, wife of Gilbert Good Sr., and mother of 2 sons serving overseas. The messenger saw her hand draw back as he tried to give her the telegram, but he had seen this before. His natural impulse was often to flee after a delivery, but the telegram had to be signed for, and he was thankful that this was not one of those deliveries where the recipient was so distraught that he had to wait for someone else in the house to come and sign. He did notice that this envelope did not have a blue star on it, so at least it wasn't the news of a fatality. The oldest good son, Robert, was a first lieutenant in the Army Air Corps in the Pacific. Robert was stationed in Alaska and had the distinction, perhaps, being the only flyer in the entire war to parachute safely to ground after his plane had crashed. He had been flying along the Alaskan coast when a heavy fog rolled in, completely obscuring his vision. He was suddenly shaken when the undersurface of his plane smashed into the crest of the unseen hill. The momentum slung his plane high into the air, and he quickly jumped out. The slipstream forced open his parachute, allowing him to land with just minor injuries as his plane crashed. Their younger son, 20-year-old Gilbert Jr., nicknamed Fuzzy, was a sergeant in the Army Air Corps, serving as a top turret gunner in a squadron of B-17 bombers operating out of a base in England. It was young Gilbert who was the subject of the telegram. "We regret to inform you," the telegram stated, "that your son, Sergeant Gilbert Good Jr., has been reported as missing in action over France. When further information is received, you will be promptly notified." In that moment, the low-grade, constant anxiety for the safety of their sons transformed into something close to panic, knowing that they might never see their son again. Several weeks later, they received a letter from a squadron friend of Gilbert's, which explained that his plane had been seen entering a cloud bank, being pursued by what they thought was a German rocket plane, and they saw a sudden flash of orange in the cloud, and after that, no more was seen of his aircraft. A month later, on Saturday, May 13th, the day before Mother's Day, the mail arrived, and in it was a returned bundle of 12 unopened letters that had been sent to Gilbert at his base after he had gone missing. The arrival of this bundle seemed to underscore the worst of their fears. Just hours later, that same day, a car pulled up to their house, another Western Union messenger. Gilbert's dad opened the door, terrified, quickly signed for the telegram, and closed the door. He and Helen Gilbert looked at each other and sat down and opened the envelope. The telegram read, "The Secretary of War wishes for me to inform you that he has received word from the International Red Cross via the German government that your son, Sergeant Gilbert Good Jr., has been located and is currently in a German hospital. After recovering from his wounds, he will be transferred to a German prisoner of war camp. We will notify you when we receive further information." There might never have been two happier people who had received the news that their son was wounded and a prisoner of war. Sunday was a memorable Mother's Day for Helen Good. 4 months later, on Wednesday afternoon, August 9th, 1944, another Western Union messenger was sent to the opposite side of town. This time, the car went to a small, neat house on East Lincoln, 4 houses west of Torrey on the south side, a house that is still there today. 46-year-old Dorrit Thompson heard the car door close and looked out from the front window, freezing in horror when she saw that it was a Western Union man. Dorrit and husband Timothy had one son, Carlton, who was serving in the 485th Fighter Squadron in Europe. Carl had graduated from Baldwin High 5 years previously and left the University of Michigan in his sophomore year to join the Army Air Corps. He and his parents had immigrated from Jamaica when he was 2 years old, and they operated a little grocery on Adams Road, a store that they could walk to. Carlton's 13-year-old sister, Peg, ran to the door when she heard her mother gasp, and Dorrit was so shaken that Peg had to sign for the telegram. With her hands shaking, Dorrit tore open the envelope and covered her mouth with her hand as she read, "We regret to inform you that your son, Second Lieutenant Carlton Thompson, has been reported missing in action since July 23rd when he failed to return with his squadron in a mission over France. We will keep you updated when more information is made available." From that day in August, Dorrit, Tim, and Peg Thompson lived in misery, some days feeling hopeful and other days despondent. Then, 2 months later, on a beautiful sunny morning in early October, the Western Union messenger came again to the Thompson house, carrying another telegram. The envelope this time, though, was adorned with a blue star. With tears in their eyes, they read the cold, efficiently worded message. "Regret to inform you that the International Red Cross has received confirmation from the German government that your son, Second Lieutenant Carlton E. Thompson, was killed in action on July 23, 1944. It would be months before the family learned this doomed mission of Carl's had actually been his 37th mission, most of them flown over Normandy from their bases in England in support of the Allied landings and thrust into France that June. Just 3 days before his death, the squadron had moved from England to a new base in Normandy. Back on July 23rd, Carl's squadron had attacked a railroad yard and German supply base south of Paris. It was a day of low clouds, and as the squadron made its way back to their new base, a dozen or so German fighter planes came out of the clouds directly behind them and shot down 3 of the Americans who were in the rear of the formation. 2 of the planes went down immediately, but it was believed that Carl had been able to maneuver his crippled plane enough to enable him to successfully parachute out, but upon landing, he was shot to death by German ground soldiers. Local French citizens buried Carl's remains in a local churchyard, and once the area was liberated in the following months, Carl's remains were reinterred in the beautiful American cemetery on the Normandy coast that looks over Omaha Beach. One of Carl's surviving squadron friends recalled a day in England when Carl took his P-38 fighter plane up for a test run after some repairs had been made. Nearby was a hospital where a nurse that Carl was sweet on worked. Carl wanted to show off his flying skills to her, so as he approached the hospital grounds just above the treetops, he purposely flipped his plane upside down. To his horror, though, one of the 2 engines cut out, so here he was upside down at 50 feet with only 1 engine running. Somehow, he was able to gain some altitude and right his plane, and as he did that, the engine came back to life. He was able to land back at his base, but his friend recalled that Carl had been very shaken by this close call. His friend said that once they learned that Carl had not survived, they gathered his belongings and found taped inside the lid of his trunk was a picture of his little sister Peg. On May 6 of 1945, a memorial service was held for Carl at Birmingham's First Presbyterian Church. Carl's parents eventually moved back to the Caribbean. His sister Peg died just 7 years ago in 2018 at the age of 87. Back on Fairfax Street, 2 weeks after Carlton Thompson's memorial service in May of 1945, Western Union made one last delivery to the Good household. This one, dated May 18, 1945, informed them that their son Gilbert had been liberated from the German POW camp and was safe. Gilbert had been interned at the infamous Stalag 17 in northern Austria. He returned to Birmingham and lived here the remainder of his days, passing away at the age of 58 in 1982, and he is interned in Birmingham's Greenwood Cemetery. In all, almost 3,000 men and women from Birmingham served in the war. 40 young men from Baldwin High School alone lost their lives in the war. Many others also died. Officially, 700 from Oakland County died in World War II. Many homes in Birmingham had visits from the Western Union. For myself, on Memorial Day, my focus has always been on the men and women who sacrificed so much and gave their lives for a greater purpose. We should also remember the families of those that served and the unsettling fear that they had to endure and the terror that they experienced when the Western Union messenger came to their door. Thank you.
I hope you've got a piccolo over there somewhere, because it's time for the Stars and Stripes Forever. That is the Birmingham Concert Band. Outstanding work. Yes.
At this point in our service, we customarily read the necrology, the listing of Michiganians in the service who have passed away since Memorial Day last year. We always hope that there will be no names on the list, and unfortunately, we have a Michigan fatality to report since Memorial Day last year. A Battle Creek resident died during a recent training accident in Lithuania. Staff Sergeant Troy Knutson Collins, 28, had served in the Army for more than 7 years and was assigned to 1st Battalion, 41st Field Artillery Regiment. He deployed to Korea in 2020. Knutson Collins and 3 other soldiers were part of the 1st Armored Brigade Combat Team, 3rd Infantry Division, and were on a tactical training exercise when they and their vehicle were reported missing on March 28th. The 63-ton armored vehicle was discovered the following day in a bog, submerged in 15 feet of water. This Memorial Day, we remember those who sacrificed their lives for our freedom. Our thoughts and prayers are with all of those who are grieving. May we, as Abraham Lincoln said at Gettysburg, quote, highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Now here in Shane Park, we have 2 monuments, one from the Civil War and one honoring all who have served. First, the Civil War Monument. The residents of Bloomfield, Royal Oak, Southfield, and Troy townships raised money to build the monument. It was completed and dedicated in 1869 and placed in the center of the intersection of Mill and Saginaw, now Maple and Old Woodward. It was surrounded by a low wrought iron fence with flowers carefully planted around the base. On each side of the obelisk are inscribed the names of the soldiers from each of the 4 townships who did not survive the war. In 1891, the monument was considered to be an impediment to traffic at the intersection, and it was moved to Greenwood Cemetery. There it became a focal point of Civil War soldiers' reunions and Memorial Day observances, when the custom was to have a parade that terminated at the cemetery with a service held around the monument. In 1964, to coincide with the 100th anniversary of the incorporation of Birmingham as a city, the monument was moved again to the lawn of the municipal building. In 2010, when Shane Park was redesigned, the monument was moved to its current location. The Oakland County Camp of the Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War will now place their memorial wreath. On November 11th, 1952, the Birmingham High School Band opened the ceremony to dedicate the new Rotary Club War Memorial with the national anthem. The designer of the memorial, renowned local sculptor and World War II veteran Marshall Fredericks, helped to unveil the monument. The Birmingham War Memorial consists, as you can see, of a bronze casting of the Great Seal of the United States set on a base of Indiana limestone. The memorial stood outside the main entrance of Seaholm High School for 46 years. In May of 1997, it was moved to the north lawn of the Birmingham City Hall, and on May 26th, another ceremony was held to rededicate the memorial with Marshall and Rosalind Fredericks in attendance. In 2010, when Shane Park was redesigned and expanded, the memorial was moved again to its current place of honor. The Birmingham Rotary Club will now place their memorial wreath at the monument. Now please rise if you can for the playing of taps and the conclusion of our service. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our service. Thank you all for your attendance. We hope to see you again next year.